There comes a time in your life when you realize that the greatest prison is not the one built by society. It's the one built by your routines. For years, many of us have lived bound by cycles that do not serve our destiny. We blame time, we blame people, we blame our circumstances. But the truth is, life only begins to change when we confront the real issue, our habits. Change doesn't take time, it takes truth. Time is neutral. It passes whether you grow or not, whether you rise or remain where you are. You can sit in the same place for 10 years and still be the same person you were on day one if truth never confronted your patterns. That is the deception so many fall into. The belief that with enough time, things will simply get better. But time has never been the author of change. It only reveals what truth you have accepted or rejected. You don't need a year, a month, or even a week to change. What you truly need is a moment of clarity that pierces the fog of confusion. One divine revelation can collapse decades of delay. One moment of truth can shake you out of years of passivity. And until that truth arrives, you might stay busy without becoming better. Truth is not just information, it is illumination. It exposes what you've ignored and confirms what your spirit has always known, but your habits have resisted. Real truth is not polite, it disrupts. It doesn't just educate your mind, it confronts your lifestyle. Truth comes to correct what comfort has allowed. That's why real transformation begins when you stop defending your dysfunction. As long as you protect the habits that sabotage you, truth will be offensive. But the moment you become desperate for freedom, more than familiarity, truth becomes your deliverer. That's when change becomes instant. Not because time passed, but because your heart finally said, enough. Some people hear truth every day but never change because their hearts are not ready to surrender. They treat truth like decoration instead of instruction. But truth is not meant to decorate your beliefs. It is meant to dismantle them and reconstruct your reality. It doesn't come to fit into your life. It comes to redesign it. That's why the power of change is not in the truth alone, but in the posture you bring to it. The same truth that liberates one person can offend another, depending on who's willing to be honest with themselves. Change is not difficult when truth becomes clear. When truth hits your spirit, you suddenly see who you really are, not who you pretend to be. You realize your patterns, your cycles, your compromises. And more than anything, you realize that you were never waiting on time. You were waiting on the courage to confront what you've normalized. And once you do, time bows to your decision. Transformation accelerates. Doors open, grace floods in. Not because a clock struck a certain hour, but because truth broke the chains of indecision. What truth does is it takes away your excuses. It forces you to look in the mirror and admit, I am where I am because of what I've accepted. That's a hard reality for many, but it's also the first step to freedom. Because once you take responsibility, you reclaim power. You stop blaming the economy, the people, the upbringing, and you start walking in the authority of a renewed mind. And with that authority, you begin to change not slowly, but powerfully. Suddenly, habits start to shift, relationships realign, vision returns. All because the lie lost its seat in your life. Time is simply the platform where truth performs. If you don't introduce truth into your life, time will only multiply your dysfunction. But if you encounter truth and embrace it, time becomes your servant, not your enemy. What should have taken 10 years can happen in a week. What was stagnant for years begins to move. That's the miracle of truth. It redeems time. It collapses waiting seasons into breakthrough moments. Because the moment you see clearly, you act differently. And when your actions align with truth, your results change, your atmosphere shifts, and your purpose awakens. This is why the most dangerous thing in life is not lack of time. It's living in error. You could be praying for a breakthrough when all you need is a truth that confronts your behavior. You could be asking God for promotion while hiding from the principle that leads to it. But when truth becomes your priority, growth becomes automatic. You no longer need to be convinced to change. Your spirit demands it. That's when you know transformation is real. When you're no longer negotiating with truth, but you're surrendering to it. So remember this: the gap between who you are and who you are meant to be is not time, it's truth. And the moment you embrace truth, change is not gradual, it's immediate. Habits are the seeds of destiny. Every future you desire is already being constructed in silence by the routines you practice when no one is watching. You are not merely the sum total of your decisions, you are the result of your daily disciplines. Decisions can be dramatic, but habits are what sustain the results of those decisions. A single choice can start a journey, but only consistent habits carry you to the destination. The person you dream of becoming is not found in a day of inspiration, but in the quiet repetitions of daily obedience. It is easy to announce change, but transformation is proven by what you do when the emotions wear off and the applause disappears. What you do consistently reveals what you truly believe. It is not your words, but your patterns that prophesy your future. You can say you value growth, but if you do not create time to read, learn, reflect, and act, then your habits betray your confession. You may claim to want health, but if your habits feed disorder, then your body is simply reflecting your rituals. You may declare you are committed to purpose, but if your daily routine is filled with distraction, your habits are testifying against your destiny. You cannot fake your way into greatness. Your patterns will always expose your priorities. A habit is not just a repeated action. It is a rehearsed identity. Every time you act, you are affirming a version of yourself. If you keep pressing snooze, you're not just delaying the day. You are agreeing with a mindset that says your vision can wait. If you consistently avoid hard conversations, you're not just avoiding discomfort. You're reinforcing a character that fears growth. Your habits either reinforce your past or construct your future. They are not neutral, they are formative. They shape the lens through which you view yourself and the limits you accept for your life. Your future is not something you wait for. It is something you build, one habit at a time. It doesn't arrive suddenly. It grows gradually through systems of consistency. Habits are like seeds, small, easily ignored, often invisible to others. But once planted and nourished, they grow into trees that provide fruit or thorns, depending on the seed. One habit of discipline can birth a life of order. One habit of procrastination can lead to a decade of delay. That's the power of habits. They multiply in silence, and when they mature, they either empower your purpose or sabotage your progress. You don't rise to the level of your potential, you fall to the level of your habits. Many people have vision, but they lack systems. They have passion, but no pattern. You can dream of success, but if your habits are disorganized, your dream will become a source of frustration rather than fulfillment. Potential is cheap. Everyone has it. But habits separate the pretenders from the producers. Habits are the difference between talking about a future and walking in it. They are the structure your life needs to carry the weight of your calling. And the beautiful truth is this: you don't have to overhaul your life overnight. Destiny is not unlocked by perfection, but by progression. One good habit, done with intention, can become a catalyst for an entirely new future. You don't have to do everything. Just do something that aligns with who you're becoming. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Replace 15 minutes of scrolling with 15 minutes of journaling. Turn one complaint into one gratitude. These are not small things, they are seeds. And every seed contains a forest of future harvests. Habits are how you partner with heaven. God may have called you, gifted you, and destined you. But without habits, you won't sustain what He gives you. Anointing may open doors, but habits keep you inside the room. Talent may gain attention, but habits build legacy. You can pray for favor, but if your habits are not ready for what you're asking, the blessing will crush you rather than carry you. That is why God often delays elevation, not because He is withholding, but because He is waiting for your habits to match your destiny. When you understand that your habits are the seeds of your future, you begin to protect your routines with holy reverence. You stop treating your mornings casually. You stop excusing inconsistency. You begin to say no to things that entertain you but distract you from your assignment. You build boundaries not because you're rigid, but because you're responsible. You don't let your emotions run your day. You let your habits guide your path. Because you now know the life you're building tomorrow is being rehearsed today. And if you plant the right habits, you will walk into the future God always intended for you. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you're called to be. It is the unseen force that carries you from potential to purpose. You can have talent, vision, passion, and even divine favor. But without discipline, none of it will translate into impact. Discipline is the proof that you believe in your assignment. It is not loud. It does not seek applause. But it is always present when greatness is being built. Discipline is the womb where dreams are matured. It is the quiet agreement between your present and your future, where you decide to submit your emotions to your mission. Potential is never enough. The world is filled with gifted people who never became what they could have been. It's not because they lacked anointing, it's because they lacked alignment. Talent can get you noticed, but only discipline will keep you relevant. Vision can excite you, but only discipline will sustain you. You can be inspired by purpose, but if you do not master the habits that carry it out, you will live frustrated, full of potential, but void of fruit. Discipline is not a restriction, it is a structure. It doesn't limit your life, it builds your life. Every dream God gives you has a structure attached to it, and that structure is built through discipline. The reason many people never walk in what they were created for is because they never honor the process that leads to manifestation. They want the outcome without the obedience. They want the platform without the process. But there is no glory without sacrifice. Discipline is how you align your present choices with your future assignment. It is how you say to your distractions, "You don't get to decide where my life goes." It is the daily decision to prioritize purpose over pleasure, long-term calling over short-term comfort. Without discipline, you will keep resetting the same goals every year. You will keep repenting for the same patterns every month. You will keep asking God for things that your habits keep disqualifying you from. This is not a matter of divine delay, it is a matter of personal consistency. God is not slow. We are often inconsistent. He is ready, but we must be responsible. And discipline is the proof that we are ready to carry what we're praying for. It's one thing to want the promise. It's another to prepare for it. Discipline turns divine intention into visible impact. It is how you take what God has placed inside of you and give it form in the earth. It is how you translate an invisible call into tangible influence. Many people are waiting on a miracle, but the real miracle is what happens when you commit to doing the right thing daily, even when it's hard. Consistency is a miracle. Order is a miracle. Showing up again and again with the right attitude, the right focus, and the right spirit, that is how lives are changed, businesses are built, ministries are established, and legacies are born. It is easy to talk about destiny, but discipline determines who actually reaches it. It is not emotion that shapes your future. It is execution. Discipline teaches you to show up when you don't feel like it. It trains your flesh to obey your purpose. It develops the maturity to say no when your old self wants to say yes. It creates internal authority. And when you develop that authority over yourself, you stop being reactive. You stop chasing things that are beneath your calling. You walk with intentionality because you've built a foundation that can handle the weight of your future. Discipline is not something you have to feel. It is something you choose. And every time you choose discipline, you close the gap between who you are and who you were born to be. You don't need to pray for more potential. You need to activate what's already inside of you. And that activation happens through consistent, focused, and sacrificial discipline. You don't need another prophecy. You don't need more inspiration. You need to build the bridge. And that bridge is built one decision at a time. The world doesn't need another dreamer. It needs finishers. And finishers are made in the fire of discipline. You will never change what you tolerate. Transformation does not begin with motivation or desire. It begins with confrontation. As long as you are willing to live with something, it will remain. Tolerance is silent permission. The moment you stop confronting an issue, you start partnering with it. And anything you excuse, you empower. You cannot rebuke what you continue to accommodate. What you justify will eventually dominate you. The life you're living right now is not shaped by what you hate. It's shaped by what you've allowed. And until you draw a line in the sand and declare, this can no longer stay, your habits, relationships, attitudes, and environments will remain the same. Change requires confrontation, and confrontation starts with radical honesty. You must stop negotiating with your own excuses. You must stop romanticizing your dysfunction. You must look in the mirror and admit that you've been tolerating things that do not align with the person you claim to be becoming. It could be procrastination, laziness, comparison, toxic relationships, inconsistency, or fear. But until you become violent with what's been silently destroying your growth, it will keep you trapped. What you ignore will not heal. It will spread. It will multiply. And it will become the standard by which you unconsciously measure your life. You can't change your life if you continue to comfort your weaknesses. Many people want transformation, but they don't want disruption. They want growth, but they don't want grief. But real change is often preceded by internal war. You will have to say no to parts of yourself that once made you feel safe. You will have to break patterns that once brought you relief. You will have to disappoint your former self in order to embrace your higher self. And that shift doesn't come through convenience. It comes through conflict. You cannot be loyal to comfort and expect change. Every breakthrough demands that you evict something that's overstayed its welcome. You must become allergic to compromise. You must become intolerant of smallness, not in arrogance, but in awareness. Awareness that you were not created for mediocrity. You were not created to repeat the same year 10 times and call it growth. You were not created to live bound by things you have the power to break. But freedom never feels like freedom at first. It feels like loss. Because when you begin to confront what you've tolerated, you will feel the discomfort of disconnection. The disconnection from old cycles, old coping mechanisms, old mentalities, and even old associations. Radical honesty is the birthplace of rapid change. When you stop lying to yourself about your time, your habits, your intentions, your laziness, your inconsistency, something awakens inside you. It's not shame, it's awareness, it's ownership. And ownership is what opens the door to power. You cannot rule what you don't own. If you blame, you remain. If you own it, you can change it. That moment of honest reckoning is when destiny becomes possible again. Not because something outside of you changed, but because something within you was no longer willing to accept average as acceptable. Excuses are dangerous because they sound reasonable. They make sense to your wounded parts. They comfort your fear of failure. They protect your ego. But while excuses may feel safe, they keep you small. You will never maximize your life by explaining away your lack of growth. You must stop hiding behind, "I'm working on it," when you know you're avoiding it. You must stop using the future as a crutch for your present delay. The truth is, you don't rise to the level of your intentions. You rise or fall to the level of what you allow. When you finally stop tolerating what's been tolerating your greatness, everything starts to shift. Not instantly, but undeniably. Your standards change. Your environment starts to shift. You stop entertaining people who don't respect your vision. You stop saying yes to distractions that drain your energy. You stop blaming the devil for things that are really just poor decisions and unresolved patterns. You take full responsibility. You get serious. You start building, living, deciding, showing up, not as a victim of what happened, but as an architect of what's possible. This is the power of intolerance. It's not bitterness, it's clarity. It's refusing to lower your life to the level of your excuses. Because the truth is, what you're willing to live with reveals what you think you're worth. And the moment you raise your standards, everything that doesn't belong will either elevate or exit. You will never change what you tolerate. But the day you decide that enough is enough, that's the day heaven agrees with you, and destiny begins to respond. The power to change is already in you. Habits unlock it. You are not waiting on some external force to shift your life. You're not missing what you need. You're not deficient. Everything you require to step into your next level is already within you, planted by the Creator before you ever took your first breath. The challenge is not your capacity. It's your consistency. The struggle is not potential. It's practice. You don't need to keep praying for power. You need to align with it through disciplined, deliberate habits that bring the blueprint God placed in you to life. You were created with intention. You are not a random collection of talent and temperament. You are a carefully designed vessel with specific potential, purpose, and gifts. But that design is buried under layers of comfort, distraction, and cultural programming. Habits are the tools that help you dig through the clutter and rediscover what was already there. They do not give you power. They reveal it. That's why the people who change their lives are not the ones who beg for change, but the ones who build systems that support who they are becoming. The power is not in the moment of inspiration. It's in the discipline of repetition. God never intended for your growth to be a mystery. He placed a code in you, a divine configuration. Your job is not to create the power, but to uncover it. And the way you uncover it is not through random effort or wishful thinking. It is through intentional alignment. Habits are how you bring your behavior into agreement with your calling. Every time you repeat a habit that aligns with your purpose, you chip away at what's been covering your true identity. You begin to see with clarity. You begin to live with confidence. Not because something changed around you, but because something awakened within you. The most dangerous lie you can believe is that you need something outside of yourself to become what you already are on the inside. That mindset keeps people stuck, always searching, always comparing, always waiting for someone else to validate what God has already approved. But when you realize the power is already in you, you stop looking outward and start looking inward. You stop chasing and start cultivating. You stop begging and start building. Habits are how you till the soil of your soul so that what's inside can take root and bear fruit. You don't need another breakthrough moment. You need a breakthrough habit. One that rewires your responses. One that redirects your focus. One that reminds your body, your mind, and your spirit of who you really are. That's why habits are so powerful. They don't just change what you do, they change what you believe about yourself. And the moment your belief system shifts, your behavior follows. That's when true transformation begins. Not just change in activity, but change in identity. Prayer is powerful, but many people pray for what they refuse to practice. They ask God for wisdom, but don't create space for learning. They ask for strength, but feed their weaknesses. They ask for increase, but won't structure their day. Prayer should not be a substitute for preparation. It should be the foundation for alignment. And that alignment must be enforced by action. Habits are the daily expressions of your faith in what God already placed in you. They are how you honor the gift by taking responsibility for the growth. The Holy Spirit empowers you, yes, but He will not override your laziness. God has given you everything pertaining to life and godliness, but He won't force you to become who you were meant to be. That's your decision. That's your discipline. That's your stewardship. And when you begin to treat your habits as sacred tools instead of optional preferences, you start walking in dominion. You start commanding your atmosphere, shaping your reality, building your future. Not because you are striving for identity, but because you are living from it. The power to change your mindset, your patterns, your outcomes, your entire life, it is already within you. The world may have convinced you that change takes magic or miracles or motivation, but real change takes movement. Small, repeated, consistent movement in the right direction. That's what habits are. They are not restrictions. They are revelations. They reveal what matters to you. They reveal who you believe you are. They either reinforce your past or call forth your future. And when you build habits that are in agreement with your original design, you begin to live as the version of yourself that heaven had in mind all along. 1 week of focused obedience can redeem years of delay. God is not bound by our clocks, our calendars, or our timetables. He does not measure progress the way we do. While we obsess over how long something has taken, God looks for alignment. And the moment He finds obedience, not partial agreement, not emotional excitement, but full surrender, acceleration begins. You may have wandered for years, missed opportunities, wasted time, or made repeated mistakes, but when obedience enters the equation, redemption steps in. What would have taken a decade in your own strength can happen in a week under divine instruction. The truth is, delay is not always punishment. Many times it is mercy. Delay is God's way of preserving what you are not yet prepared to carry. It is His hand holding back a blessing that would crush you in your current state. But the moment you decide to align, to submit, to walk in what you already know to do, things begin to shift rapidly. We often think we need new instructions when what we really need is obedient execution of the last command. God doesn't wait for us to be perfect. He waits for us to obey. Your life doesn't change because of what you know. It changes because of what you act on. You can carry prophecy, potential, and purpose for years, but none of it becomes visible until it is activated by obedience. And obedience is not just agreement, it's action. It's the willingness to lay down excuses and step into the unknown simply because God said so. It's the kind of action that trusts the voice over the visible. That kind of obedience is powerful. It draws favor. It collapses time. It unlocks doors you thought were permanently closed. 1 week of focused obedience, not scattered energy, not half-hearted discipline, but focused, deliberate, unwavering obedience can realign your entire trajectory. You may think you've missed too much. You may feel like it's too late. But God can redeem in a moment what you lost in a season. When He finds someone who is fully surrendered, who is ready to say yes without conditions, heaven backs that decision with divine momentum. You'll see restoration in areas where there was only barrenness. You'll see ideas come alive that you thought had died. You'll see provision show up where there was only lack. Why? Because obedience opens what striving cannot. God does not need time to bless you. He only needs your yes. He only needs your willingness to let go of the old and embrace the discipline, the structure, the order, and the direction that aligns with your calling. You don't need more time. You need more clarity. And clarity comes from obedience. Every time you take a step in the right direction, your vision sharpens. What once looked impossible begins to feel inevitable. Because obedience does not just move you forward, it transforms you as you move. This is why so many live beneath their calling. They are waiting for ideal conditions while God is waiting for obedient steps. You don't have to fix everything overnight. You just need to start. You need to show up to your own life like someone who believes in what they carry. Because what you carry is not ordinary, it is kingdom. And kingdom purposes are activated by kingdom principles. The primary one being obedience, not to your feelings, not to trends, but to God's direction, even when it's inconvenient. There are blessings that are not delayed by demonic opposition, but by indecisiveness. There are seasons that have not been blocked, only postponed by your hesitation. You've been asking God to move, but He's been asking you to decide. Because the moment you decide, the moment you act in obedience, even if it's small, even if it's scary, time begins to submit to the authority of that choice, and things begin to happen fast. What took others years to learn, you start to master. What others labor to access, God begins to bring to your feet. Not because you're better, but because you're aligned. Obedience is the currency of acceleration. It is the proof of maturity. It is the gateway to restoration. When you give God 1 week of total surrender, your focus, your schedule, your priorities, your attention, you'll realize He didn't forget your promise. He was just waiting on your participation. You'll look back on seasons of delay and see that they weren't wasted. They were preparation. Because the moment obedience enters your life, what once seemed far becomes close, what once seemed hard becomes possible, and what once felt lost becomes redeemed. My friends, hear me now. The future is not ahead of you, it is trapped inside of you. You are not designed to chase time, you were born to master it. God never intended for you to live bound by years of frustration, cycles of stagnation, or the deception that change is distant. No, He placed everything you need for transformation within you. You are not a victim of delay, you are a carrier of destiny. And destiny does not respond to emotion. It responds to order, to discipline, to vision, and to the principles that govern success. If you want to see change, you must stop waiting and start aligning. Habits are not habits. They are silent prophecies. They speak of your belief, your identity, and your destination. You cannot expect a new life with the same patterns. You cannot step into divine purpose while tolerating dysfunction. You cannot demand destiny and keep excusing disobedience. It is time to confront what you've accepted. It is time to rise above the average and embrace the extraordinary calling on your life. You are more than gifted. You are responsible. You are more than chosen. You are accountable. Your potential is proof that there is something inside of you the world has not seen yet. But potential without discipline is wasted. Purpose without obedience is delayed. And vision without execution is nothing but imagination. God is not waiting on time. He is waiting on your decision. So I challenge you, give God 1 week. 1 week of focused obedience. 1 week of disciplined action. 1 week of radical alignment. And you will see what years of hoping, wishing, and delaying could never produce. Because when principle meets practice and faith meets structure, transformation is not only possible, it becomes inevitable. You were not born to survive life. You were born to lead it. So go back to your life with power. Rebuild your habits with purpose. Confront your excuses with truth. Walk in your design with boldness. And remember, when you live by principle, you live by power. The future does not belong to the lazy. It belongs to the disciplined. It belongs to those who decide. And it belongs to you if you choose.